People watching our channel for years on ZFSrocks have seen that we are using mostly or only ZFS-based systems, and especially we are using, in earlier times, FreeNAS, TrueNAS, and obviously Proxmox. And for the most people, they are looking for a file server. A file server with ZFS means with a perfect mirror or redundancy, or with the possibility to give people the ability to restore files themselves and have a big selection of snapshots for restoring or rolling back the entire file system. We had to use a TrueNAS with a dedicated machine because it doesn't make sense to virtualize ZFS system on a ZFS system. So for that reason, if you wanted to have a file server, you had a Proxmox server for your virtual machines with Windows or Univention, whatever. And you had to have a dedicated NAS system with ZFS. And we are ending it here. We don't need it anymore. And that's really a great opportunity for you to see how everything developed and how did we come there where we are. You do not know how we came to. I'm sure this sentence is horrible and completely wrong, but be happy to see the following. Our aim is, I have a small screenshot here from another project. Our aim is that a user can press the button, go to recent versions of a file or folder, and can select of a large number of snapshots, and have the entire system, file system from this point on, can make previews and can copy back the files without any cost of time. So what you have, press the button, recent versions, obviously here in Germany, and you can see there are frequent snapshots every 15 minutes, there are hourly snapshots, those are the 17 past the full hour minute, and you have daily snapshots, weekly snapshots, monthly snapshots, and they do not cost any time or energy for ZFS because it's working with those vectors. That's really great. So a couple of years ago, the problem was that you have a specific naming scheme for the ZFS snapshots to make them available in Samba, and then you needed a dedicated system. So what you were able to say, I make a share on a TrueNAS, FreeNAS, and say I have one snapshot set, for example, an hourly one or daily one, and those snapshots were visible in the selection for the user. And this changed completely. So how did we get there? So you have to stay with us, and we have a look how we came there. I'm doing ZFS for 12 years. I think I can call me a specialist on it. I have about 800 active ZFS datasets and volumes, and all monitored and replicated, and the entire thing for 12 years. So you can watch ZFSrocks or older videos from Zfs TV, and you can see I was caring about this topic for more than a century. So what do we have here? When we moved to open source software, we found out that a great domain controller comes from the German corporate Univention, and it's called the Univention Corporate Server. Great thing. This Univention Corporate Server is a really great supported machine. The problem only was that the entire configuration for file share wasn't easy. Means you had to create a disk manually or use the existing disk. You have to configure the Samba share with hundreds of buttons. They are not really necessary, very confusing, and you never come to a good result. The thing is, how did I make it happen in combination with Proxmox that a simple virtual machine without ZFS have access to ZFS snapshots? Let's have a look here. What I did in the first step was, CP Zengel, that's me, Christian Peter Zengel, but this Peter comes from my uncle I never met in my life. Univention corporate server, Samba, with ZFS via NFS working. And how did it work? Install Univention corporate server on a virtual HDD. First, hard drive is managed by LVM. So install the NFS kernel server, apt install NFS kernel server on Proxmox. It's a simple command. Then install, ZFS install, apt install ZFS Auto Snapshot from GitHub. It's not necessary from GitHub because it's available in the repository from Debian for a while. So we just have to say apt install ZFS Auto Snapshot. And what it's doing then is, you can have a look. For example, you have here ZFS Auto Snapshot running on a server here. It's not the one I want to use today, but so arguments empty. What it does is he's copying different calls on etc cron, for example, cron hourly. So if you have a look here, comes ZFS Auto Snapshot, and it just says execute ZFS, ZFS, whatever you call it, Auto Snapshot, shut up, put it in a syslog, label it hourly, and then keep 48 snapshots of that kind. This means if you're running this script once an hour, you keep 48, so we'll have 49 hours for retention. That's the idea behind it. So that's great. So then you can select how many you want. For example, my recommendation is 96 hours, 12 quarter hours, 10 days, 6 weeks, and 3 months should cost you normally about double or 3 times the space, including the snapshots for the space you are using in a normal working environment. It's just to get an idea how many space here will be wasted or is necessary to use this entire thing. So that's great. Because it's working on vectoring, the creating of the snapshots and removing in the retention does not stress the system at all. So we had a system last week with 350K of snapshots because of a mistake, a not working retention. It took us 10 days to remove them, but people were able to work on virtual machines on the system, so we are fine here. That's a great set. So approximately 100 snapshots for data set or volume is great. You can use it. So what did we do then? Let's have a look on this here. This is the first solution. So then you can create a data set. So we call it here ZFS create rpool. That's the RAID first data set. rpool data is the default store for Proxmox. Was it here on ZFS? And then we said, okay, we say ZFS Z share NFS on this especially one here, and then we changed mod 777 to this. So this means for the first thing, everyone has access to this one. So what we do is in 2 things, just not to be misunderstood. What we do is on the Proxmox side, the ZFS set share NFS on rpool data test, for example test. Then we do the change mod. So I see this path here is wrong, that's not correct. This should be the same like here with a slash in the front. And then what I do, I go to Univention in the system, say make dir mnt test or whatever data, don't call it schnitzel. And then you have to mount this particular thing on the FS tab. So first recommendation, I said here share NFS on. There is a special syntax you can limit it on the Univention server. So the idea is to supply the Univention server with a ZFS dataset and then to reshare it with Samba. That's not the one what we're using today. It's just to get an idea how we got there. So, and then we just described how to handle it and how to reshare with Samba for a particular group of people. This means you have one share and you can assign it to one group. And then you were able to select the one snapshot set, for example, those days, the hourlies or the dailies. In Windows, previous versions, dialog, there were just one set of snapshots available because of design. This changed completely. In those days, you can see, this is the entire Samba config. This means if you find a snapshot, ZFS, in this case, hourly, with year, month, day, and everything, they will be shown up. It means people press the button, show previous versions, and then they saw the last 48, 24, 96, whatever snapshots. That's great for people. But we put it on an entire higher level with our friends from Bash Club. Special thanks to everybody who helped us. Thorsten, Markus, what's the name? Oh, I forgot it. I'll tell later. And many other people reviewed my work. What I did then, I said, okay, this is great. We have this running on 5 or 6 customers. And the rest we have our new project. Our new is already half a year or older. But what we did then, I said, okay, this ZFS thing is great. Let's have it for everybody. Everybody should have ZFS. So what we did then is you can go to sysops.tv and then go to the NASberry. NAS with ZFS on Raspberry Pi 4. And there are many videos, but I can just simplify how you get it. That's great. What you need is, you need a Raspberry Pi. You need 2 USB drives with suitable adapters. Some recommendations are here on the right side. Those are tested. It's more down here. You can see those, for example, those Go Green USB adapters were great. It has some really technical reasons. So if you already have a Raspberry Pi or you're able to get one at those times, it's after COVID and the war in Ukraine, it's not easy to get some. But if you have one, if you can get one, and you have this Raspberry Pi, and you have 2 drives by USB, or perhaps you have a dedicated board with NVM or something like this, you can get first the ability to restore files of any snapshot name, even hourly, daily, monthly, and so on for month. And you also have a great web GUI for ZFS. You can see here the disks are online, and you can list the snapshots. And if you have a Trojan problem, you go to the web GUI and say, okay, here's a Trojan problem. I can see the changes in gigabytes for the last hours, and I can see yesterday everything was fine. I did do nothing. So I say, roll back to yesterday, and it will take you 1 second, and you are done. So this is a great thing. Was the next step in it. So yeah, what you need is a Pi, a power supply, perhaps a keyboard, monitor, cable with a, it must be, really, it's not joking, you need a Raspberry Pi 4 or 400. 2 gigabytes are fine. 4 and 8 are better. And what you just have to do is to get can have a look at the installing here. It's quite simple. You can start with the older Ubuntu version. This is not updated. This has not been updated because of the migration to Debian. At the moment, we want to move to Debian, but because of the bad availability of these items, we are delaying to finish the project for Debian. So Ubuntu is fine. What you do, you take a version with or without a GUI, without a desktop. Better you don't use the desktop. If you want a desktop system, use a desktop system. It's working. Take the long-term support. Then wire your Raspberry Pi with the Ethernet, so it's get internet. Perhaps you need a monitor for this time, and you need a keyboard for this time. You don't need a mouse. And then when you wrote the image to the SD card and you're booting the first time, there will be a root, a login prompt. But you have to wait from this point on. And if you wait a couple of seconds, the next thing will be a kind of output. It's the first time boot, so it's setting the keys and some defaults. If this is happening, you can press enter. You can log in with Ubuntu. Every step I made here should be compatible also with international keyboards, because it's an English American keyboard at this point. So there are no umlauts or things like this. So if you are changing passwords or something like this, be careful. 2 times Ubuntu, then it takes a couple of seconds, then you are logged in. What you do next is a little strange if you are into Linux. You say wget nestRes.de, it's my domain. This will download your installation script called index.html, and then you just say bash index.html. Then you can press and confirm the ZFS license, and then there are questions about new password, and you can decide if you want to keep your data or to format your disks, and some explanations how you can use it. And I want to encourage you, this is really great. You will love it. If you have a Raspberry Pi 400, you have to use it, you have to try it. Jeff, if you're looking this, feel free to try it. So, what do we have next? But I wanted more. I ever dreamed of the perfect file server that's connected to a Windows domain, working great, with the same behavior of an ordinary Windows server. But by the way, it's not easy, because Samba has a big, fat amount of parameters you can run it with, and that's really a problem with inheritance for permissions and behaviors and caches and whatever. So, umlaut in English means mutation. We are all mutants. Yes, might be. Alles gut. I love them. I ever dreamed of this perfect Linux file server not running in a virtual machine, running native on Proxmox, and that's what we tried next. But if you would install a file server native on Proxmox, would mean you cannot move it. So the best choice would be to have it running in a Linux container, because this is just a change root environment that's running in one data set. You can roll back with your operating system, and with another disk, you have your data on. Means if you have a problem with the server setup, you can roll it back. If you have a problem with your data, so it's a compromise, you can roll it back. You can choose from your snapshots. Very comfortable. That's a great idea. So I had no idea about joining a domain, so I tried starting with Open Media Vault. That's not really suitable for a Linux container. Got it running, found a manual or explanation how to join it to a domain, and then I removed everything I did not need. And that's exactly what we now call, and here it comes, the Samba file server. Basically, it should be a ZMB to avoid lawsuits. The Samba file server for itself, you can find in the Samba LXT toolbox called by the file server, that contains many more software to install that's basically not easy to install. And then if you have Proxmox and this tool, it's easy to install, and that's what you really want. You can also install CheckMK monitoring, German, a Debian privileged container, up to date, unprivileged, the Mailpile, amazing mail archive, the Matrix server, a Nextcloud instance, an OnlyOffice instance, an Open3A telephone system, the Proxmox backup server. You can run your Proxmox backup server on a Proxmox with ZFS snapshots. That's great. You can restore, you can roll back your backup if you want to. How good is this? In your backup, the Samba AD controller and the ZMB member server that is attaching to Active Directory, or the ZMB standalone server you can use if you only need 1 or 2 users. And this is an amazing piece of software, and I call it with, I'm proud to say this is the very best file server of the entire world, and it comes from our friends and a little from me. And I'm really happy with it. What we can see here is the Univention corporate server in the 5th generation. Amazing piece of software and probably the best domain controller, and perhaps one of the best, not the best file service you can have, but it's a little confusing sometimes. For example, if you want to create a share, he's asking for the LDAP position for the object. You have to know this, and you need a name, for example, Daten, data, and if you have many of those servers, who is responsible for this share, and then you can say, okay, MNT, this was the one I was explaining earlier, and then you can choose from the Windows users. This is an Active Directory domain controller compatible server, and it's also an LDAP server, so it's both of best worlds. So then you can, for the top level, you were able to select the permissions here. And from this point on, everything seemed to be clear, but where is the domain user? So this could be a fine starting for a new share. But what is this? 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 What's the meaning of that? And what the hell is this for? And get rid of with this, and why is here NFS? I have no idea. But let's create this share to compare. This will create a share that's called Daten. Data in German, we're fine here. The thing is, if I'm here on Proxmox, this is a virtual machine, a virtual hardware. This would also run dedicated on a machine. And I already prepared, we are doing workshops here. We call it workshop. It's a school, it's lessons. People pay an amount of money, come here and get training on our integration solutions, migrations, and monitorings and whatever. So, because this is the domain controller, I can say, we call the domain sysops.tv, so I can say backslash sysops.tv, and some of the domain controllers, in this case it's only one, I can call it by the domain, so my domain controller should give me an answer. So, okay, here obviously the permissions does not fit, and for some reason it's not working. I think it's not, I did not create the path, so it's not very intuitive, but we go the last mile and explain what the problem is and how you can handle it. Perhaps this could be a great solution for you. So if this one is not working, perhaps the reason is there is no folder. So we have a look on this machine, this Univention corporate server. I told him to have a look in MNT. Okay, here's a test. Have a look at this. Okay, this should be fine, but it's not working for a reason I don't know. So this is a little weird. So, but you have seen, the idea is if you use it on Univention or any other domain-based authentication, you just grant access to the administrator user for the first time, and from this point on, every permission is set from here. But to get there, to here, so sorry, here, if you can access this one, you can set any permission for the future from here, and you don't need the other confusing menu anymore. That's the idea. So this one's not working. So let's try it with a domain name. Okay, this is jetzt, this is now the way to go by the computer name, and there are two ways to access. There's the domain name, this would be zfs.tv. There is the NetBIOS name, that would be UCS, or there is the FQDN, the full qualified domain name. It's ucs.sysops.tv. So let's see what's working here. Okay, that was a problem. I can come into and I can use this. I can create a folder, and I can use a text file, and I can have a look at the permissions. And for the first impression, you can see here that's not correct, because everybody should not have permissions to that. That's not the thing I have selected. And on this here, let's have a look at the permissions. Doesn't look too good, but I can go there and can take care about my permissions like I want it. So this means everybody mustn't have access. The creator should be able to access. Everybody should be removed, and domain users should be full access, and the group should be as well the full access. So this could be one example configuration, and from here on it's inheritance of the permissions to the lower folder. So here it would be fine. The problem in this thing is it's obviously on the same disk as the operating system. So if there is a problem with the operating system, Univention, seldom, but could happen, you can roll it back, or you can restore files, but then all the changes are gone. So it would be better to have another disk. If you have a second disk, you can roll back or restore the operating system and the files separately. Then we are fine. And then we have the problem how restore single files, brick level restore. So I need a classic backup software, whatever. You can use any backup software that can handle Windows shares and restore from there. You can use the Proxmox backup server. Proxmox backup server is supporting LVM and ext4 and NTFS disks, so you can single file restore to your local machine with it, but it's not comfortable. We want it far better, and that's how it's working. So the problem is, well, not the problem, but you have to go this way, and you have to climb this bridge, this mountain, and you need the Zamba LXC toolbox in the show notes. And then you go to your Proxmox machine. So what we do here, we say git clone, and we can do the entire thing. We say apt install git. If you did not use our post install script, you have to have a look at it, and then you say git clone and the string from the website. Then you go to the Zamba conf folder, and you say copy the only file, two files, the example file to a final file. And then you can edit it with the editor that's not hurting your ethics. I'm using VI. Has a lot of text. Don't be afraid of it. Even if you are not using Linux, give it a try. It's not hard to use. You have to know what you need, what you want, and then you just have to fill out. I show you. What we have here is the template storage. Here's the recommendation, local. This should be on any, and as I say it again, it must have to be a ZFS system. It's not hardware RAID, it's not LVM, it's not anything, it's not Ceph. You need ZFS system or ZFS or whatever you call it in your country. So the local store is for the template. It's a compressed Linux. This one here describes the size of the operating system for the file server you want to install. 32 is fine. This one is for the operating system position. So the local ZFS is the default data store. If you created another, you know how it's called, and you use it. So, and this one is your file server size. You really can start with 100 because it's just a number. There's no partitioning. There's no need of discarding or scrubbing the empty blocks or things like this. This is a container-based system, so you can change this value anytime later by the resize button in your Proxmox system. So, if your operating system is on another store than the data, you can choose it here. This is the default name inside the container, and this is the memory. I think the 124 is plenty enough. I would recommend start with 2 gigabytes of RAM because of the possible situation someone is bursting data into the system. So, seldom, but could happen. Did I really say this? Yeah, I love it. Seldom, but I give a shit on it. Other people don't do it, I do it. I have my friends here on the chat. So, then you can, this is the name. So if you want to install a Zamba server, you can give a designated name or can leave it with a Zamba name. This is very important. This is the domain name. For this DNS domain name, you should use the sysops TV. This is your active, in this case, when you want to have a member service, your active directory one. And then you have to give it a fixed IP address. The thing is, if you want a domain member, you need the DNS server for your domain controller. So I have to care about a free IP address. Let me have a look what's available here. 33 for the moment should be fine. So let me fill out this from my local network, 5033. The gateway is important because you need some downloads. This should work, so the permission for surfing, DNS, and perhaps for time server should be available on your firewall. And that's the most important thing. You need the domain controller and nothing else for DNS server. So this one is the default bridge on Proxmox. This is the name of the instance that's combining or joining the physical with the virtual networks. It's the virtual bridge number 0. So then you need the correct password. You need a domain administrator. So this is for the container itself. From here on, time zone, language, feel free. So until here, it's only about the operating system. From here is about the software you want to install. But we are almost done. You have to type this in capitals, sysops. So, I lost you. So it's sysops.tv. You have to know your NetBIOS name and your DNS name. And sometimes it differs, so this has to be correct. The Zamba user, you have to take care if you have an error at the end. It might be that the capitals, oh, this is wrong. The writing here could fail at the end, but we can have a look because perhaps you remember that we changed the permissions, and we can have a look how it looks on this first share we did. And you can see it's called administrator with a capital A. This may differ on a Windows or on another system. So if you wrote the user with a capital letter, you should use that here, hopefully. Yes, and then it's what's here your name of your share. You can call it data, whatever. The other sections beyond are only about the other software you can install here. From the point on, you modified this small text file with necessary information. You just can type bash and then, oh, no, sorry, to go one on top, on the Elixir Toolbox folder, and then you say bash install sh. At this point, you only have to select the correct software. So this means this would be domain controller, this would be a standalone server, and a member server for a domain would be number 12. And so I select the number 12, and I'm happy. What's he doing now? He is looking for a free number, container 122, is getting the latest Debian if it's not there. So at this point it's Debian 11, Debian 11 jetzt, Debian 11 or 11 or 11. So how some English people say, it's really funny, there's 11 video with a escalator on an elevator. I'm not sure, it's a funny video. It's updating the system and it's installing all the necessary software, configuring the Samba server, and then we are done. And that's it. That's everything. And have a look how long it takes. I did not take the time, but it's really, really fast. And it just takes, it depends on your system, your mileage may vary, but it will take a minute or two. Perhaps it's taking 5 minutes for the best one. Look at this, look at that. Here, this one is the Kerberos ticket. This is a good sign here. Then ZMB member to DNS. And that's the name, okay. And what you see here is all the users and groups. Look at that. That's great. So here we are fine, but here invalid user administrator. That's the part I told you with the problem with the capitals. So I say I just fix it. The one thing, either you rerun it or you can repeat it and delete it, or you can fix it. I think it's faster here to show how it's working. It was the 122 if I remember correctly. Okay, that's fine. You have to delete the Samba folder and those files here in root folder, then because there's the password inside. You have to take care to remove the folder. So let's have a look. There is the install service sh, and you can see what's happening at the end. It says set the ACLs. This is that's interesting how it's work. Have a look at this. This took a long time to figure out what's the best values to come very close to a real Windows server. So let's have a look. So the administrator did not work. So obviously it's a small administrator here, and the path would be tank and share at this point. This will set the current permissions, but you don't have to forget, you mustn't forget the default permissions should be the same. And from this point on, we are done with the world's best file server. What I will do is to demonstrate, I will use the auto snapshots I mentioned earlier in this show, cron daily, because I don't use hourlies on this one. I'm doing a daily snapshot here, and then have a look if it's working or not. Here's our Windows system. That's interesting. Siri is talking to me. That's funny. Start 1, 2, 3. Here we are. This is the Univention server. So we will have a look at the ZMB member, I think, or was it Samba? I'm not sure. Thorsten changed it. Yes, here we are. ZMB member. Here is my folder. I can create a folder, for example, COs, and can, for example, make here a folder for IT, and can break the inheritance. So let's have a look at the permissions. Everybody, no permissions. Domain administrator. Don't ask me for this red badge here. No idea. It's working. And the domain admins have permissions. And I think we can give the domain users and whomever who wants permissions. So what we do now is we can have a look here on, oh no, I have to go back. Right button, previous versions, show previous versions in German here. And you can see the current daily snapshot. And this means if I have some files here, let me put a file here, a text document, and you know, always make the famous Hitler joke. And I'm renaming the document to Hitler, and then I can, should I write put in? Okay, I can do another auto snapshot on the host system beyond, and then I'm just removing. I'm doing like I do not use the trash bin. I'm removing it, so obviously the file has vanished. It's gone. It's not there anymore. The user itself can go here to the previous versions on any folder. And oh, didn't it work? There is one snapshot missing. Let's have a look. I will have a look what's up. Yeah, here we are. Here's I just pressed the F5 key, and here we have the second one. And let's have a look at the second one here. This one is empty. It's the first one, and the second one I did 2 minutes later, when the folder was filled, and Hitler was there. You can see now you have your folder from the 18th of May, 1 minute ago, and Hitler is there. And we all know what's happening now. I will bring back Hitler. That's great. I will bring back Hitler. For example, I go here to my designated folder. I want to have it and just put it here. That's the simplest way to restore one file to the live system. And this is amazing stuff. If you were lucky and used our post installer and you already went the last mile, you have installed our cockpit tool with a ZFS extension, and then you can visit your Proxmox server on port 9090 and also can log in with root or any PAM Linux user. You can't use the Linux. You only can use the Linux users here, not the Proxmox users, because this one has no idea what's happening on Proxmox, and Proxmox has no idea what's happening there. But what you also can do is, for example, let's forget about the way to restore this. Just remove on the live system any file. So this must be a Trojan, or even worse, the Trojan is decrypting and renaming and whatever. Just make a little mess, and even the nice Hitler file here will be renamed to some stupid thing. So this is not nice. If there is complete chaos, it's no help to restore a single file or a folder. You need entire rollback, and that's what you can do here on the, where is it? Ah, yeah, here. And this tool, what we do, we install this ZFS extension here, and then you select your R pool, for example. You should exactly find what you need. So this one is telling you about the RAID. As you can see, I have 2 nice Intel SSDs here and some file systems, and there are some parameters. And I also have some snapshots. If you want to roll back the entire operating system, I hardly recommend to stop the system first. If you only want to roll back the file system and nobody else is working because there's a complete mess like encryption or something like this, you simply can roll back without restarting. If there are any issues, you can restart the system later, or you can reload the Samba configuration, whatever. But have a look what's happening here. We have the 2 snapshots from earlier, the one at 8 past 6, the other 10 past. This was the one I want to have, so I just go to rollback snapshot, and then I just say if there are newer snapshots, I also have to destroy it. If you're doing something wrong, he will tell you. But if you have, so this not working, snapshot could not be rolled back for some reason, so we retry it. Okay, the simple reason is we had 15 past the hour. This means, in the meantime, I wanted to roll back the system. There has been another snapshot automatically done by the system. You can see here the frequent one, and this will be removed after 1 hour by default or later. That's the basic retention. So this was the one I just told you. If you want to roll back, perhaps you want to say destroy all newer snapshots from the system. You also would be able to make a clone to review the entire thing, but this is more advanced. So the simple way is this here, roll back. When it's green, we are fine here and you are done. You can go back to your company and you can see this is the mess. I'm reloading the page and everything is back again, and our friend Hitler is also there. And that's it. And the question now is, why didn't you use ever Samba server? And the answer is, you will use it for the future. And if you don't use Proxmox, it's simple. Install Proxmox on a system, do a software raid, use our post-install script from our website, Bash Club, on GitHub, and then follow this tutorial, and then you are completely fine, and you have the best file server and happy employees, customers, whatever. So our friends from the chat told me it's strongly recommended. I strongly recommend the system, and you will have a lot of benefit. Of course, ZFS is not a backup. You need an offsite copy of that thing, so you can use standard rsync backup. You can use any backup that's usable on Windows systems. You can use our pull script with ZFS, means you can have a Trojan safe, simple backup. You can find it in ZFS Rocks, everything. In the older videos, we have some new tools we will present here the next weeks and month. So I'm happy to have you here. Thank you for watching, and yeah, have a good day. And write in the comments, push the bell on ZFS Rocks, and ring the bell. No, you push the button, you push the thumb, you press any button on this website. There's a button, there's a commercial ad, you press any button as long as you press the bell and the thumb up. Thank you very much for watching. This is Chris from Zfs TV. Have a good one. Bye-bye.